So have we heard from Judy?
No, I haven't had any emails this morning.
One, two, three.
So it is 10 a.m. and I'm going to just pull the meeting to order. And our first item of business is the election of the chair and the vice chair. So are there any nominations for the chair?
Excuse me, Madam Clerk, should we not do the call to order and the land acknowledgement?
So once the chair is in the chair, they can go ahead and move forward with the land acknowledgement.
Or be it for me to try and correct the chair or the clerk with regard to process. My apologies.
So I just need nominations for the chair.
I like Fran to finish.
I was about to nominate Jerry.
I like you. You don't want this, Fran?
Oh, I guess.
So can we just maybe do one at a time? So the first one is moved by Councillor Lichty to nominate Councillor Smith. Is there a seconder for that? No seconder. Are there any other nominations? And is there a seconder for Councillor Fowler? Or sir, for Councillor Lichty? Somebody needs to second that.
And where are you?
So let's, no seconder for Councillor Lichty. Is there a third option for a nomination?
I nominate Jeanette. Let's nominate Judy.
She's not here in order to.
She's not here right now.
Yeah, she couldn't accept her refuse.
Oh, right. Okay.
When you're away, be careful. The reason I suggested Fran is that she's done this. We're in the last 3 or 4 meetings, and why not? That was the only reason. And if you don't mind, then I would do the vice chair.
So Fred, do you want it?
Did you want to chair this?
I'm not comfortable sometimes in the chairs.
So how?
I'll second Fran.
You're it.
Not until Jeanette tells me I am.
So are there any other nominations for the chair? Sorry, are there any other nominations for the chair? Seeing none, I just need a motion to close nominations. Moved by Councillor Lichty and seconded by Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Smith, do you accept the nomination of chair?
I do.
So moving on to the vice chair, is there nominations for the vice chair?
I nominate Jerry.
I'll second that.
And are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, seeing none, I just need a motion to close nominations, moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Lichty. All those in favor? Councillor Lichty, do you accept the nomination of vice chair?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Councillor Smith, I will move the meeting over to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the First Peoples and their ancestors who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the Indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the county is committed to working with Indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. We need a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Jerry, seconded by Fred. That the agenda for February 3rd, 2026 meeting of the Governance Review Committee be adopted. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof of any item on today's agenda by any member of the committee? Seeing none, we'll note that in the minutes. And moved by Fred and seconded by Jerry that the minutes of the Governance Review Committee held September the 2nd, 2025 be adopted. Any discussion on those minutes? Jerry?
When I was reviewing the documentation that Jeanette put together for this meeting, I went through the appendix where we recorded things that we were going to do, and then there was the action and so on. There's several errors in there. I don't know how important it is to correct those, or this is the place to do it, or do we do it later on?
Jeanette, do you want to maybe tell us what some of those are?
Well, there's like, hang on here. I actually printed this off. I couldn't believe I did it, but I did. So, 8.6, like on the first page, so I'm looking at this document here. So 8.6, it goes 8.3 and 8.4. No, forget that was right. Go to 10.5. Change 7.1 to 10.1. It says, I think that's the wrong section. I don't think 10.1 is even mentioned in 10.5. In 10.6. Here, top of the second page, we've got 10.5, change 7.1 to 10.1. Okay, but there's no 10.1 mentioned in 10.5. It's in 10.6.
Could we actually defer the minutes and have you send your questions or comments to Jeanette to have a look at and see if changes need to be made for the next meeting? Is that appropriate, Jeanette?
So the appendices, that first one was actually approved in the first meeting that we had. So these are done by date. So under the briefing that I have presented, I do have a PowerPoint that I'm going to pull up, which is going to pull each individual one of these up just to confirm that they're correct. So maybe if we can go, so it's not technically the minutes here that this is an issue with.
Okay. So we can deal with those as we go through.
I went through it all in detail because I knew this was probably our last or second last meeting regarding this procedural bylaw. So I wanted to make sure that I caught everything or captured everything. So.
Okay. Okay, so the motion's on the floor to accept the minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Welcome, Judy.
Sorry, I'm late.
All right. Let me just grab my agenda here and let Judy get organized. The next is the staff briefing that Jeanette's going to do. So we'll just 6.6 6.1, staff briefing.
Thank you, Chair Smith. So just to go through this very quickly, in the recommendation in the report are the number, apart from the grammatical errors that we were just actually speaking about, the report itself or the amendments themselves by the committee, there was a number of key changes as opposed to just the grammatical ones. So if we wanted to first go through, before I go through these major ones, the grammatical ones we're just speaking of. So section 10.5, change 7.1 to 10.1. I'm looking at 10.5 here and it's written resolutions. And so the written resolution, a written resolution outlining the general nature of the subject matter is required. Now, this is a written resolution of in a closed session. So a written resolution outlining the general nature of the subject matter is required before going into closed session, and in the case of a closed meeting held under section 7.1H. So 7.1H, we're changing to 10.1. And if we scroll up to 10.1, and this could again be wrong. So 10.1 is closed meetings. So that's why we're changing it to 10.1. Does that make sense? And
Okay, first of all, may I? First of all,
absolutely.
I really appreciate.
Jerry, speak a little louder.
Sorry. First of all, I really appreciate what you've done. There's so much work here, putting this all together and keeping everything together. I'm not sure I could have done it. Anyway, I just went to just follow the chart down, and it said 10.5, do this. But there's no mention of that revised clause in 10.1. It's in 10.6, written resolution for closed meetings. The 10.5 is an error, that's all. And I don't know how important this is.
So if I may, I guess my comment is the table you're looking at is more of the smaller grammatical pieces.
Well, I just don't know how important this is. That's the only reason.
That we can likely adjust and tweak. If it's a wrong number, a 0.5 as opposed to a 0.6, I would suggest those are little things that can be adjusted. I would say if there was support of this committee. What Jeanette, I think, will speak to is the bigger changes within the.
So, and if I could just add to that, what 10.5 is speaking about is when you're in open session and we move into closed, we have to pass a resolution that we're A, moving into closed session, and B, the general nature of why we're moving into closed session. So that is more in line with, it's not 10.6, which is introducing new business in a closed meeting. What it's talking about there is that we have to, before going into closed session, you have to have a written resolution about the general nature of why you're going into closed session. So 10.1 outlines the reasons why you can go into closed session. So it has to align with one of these reasons in section 10.1 as to the general nature of why we're going into closed session. It's a technical thing, and I do apologize because I live this, so sometimes it's hard to explain.
So 10.5 is the starting point, but we're working with clauses 7.1 and 10.1.
Yes, so 10.1 is outlining all of the reasons why you can legally go into a closed meeting. That is what section 10.1 is. It's listing all of the legal reasons why you can go into a closed meeting, which are pulled directly from the Municipal Act. 10.5 is simply stating that when you're in open session, before you can go into closed, you have to pass a resolution in open session that A, we're going into closed session under section 260 or 239 of the Municipal Act clause, let's say, for example, D, labor relations, and then you have to give the general nature, it's negotiations with QP 2290. So that's why it aligns with section 10.1. That resolution has to be in alignment with the reasons why you can go into closed session under section 10.1, if that makes sense.
It does when you explain it, but when I read the chart of the appendix, I took that as a physical change. I would go to section 10.5. I would see a change in the litany from 7.1 to 10.1, but 7.1 and 10.1 don't exist in that clause. So, but 10.6 did. So I just wondered if we made an error. Obviously we hadn't, because I just couldn't interpret this to get to your position. I understand it, what you just said. So, okay. So that's okay then.
So I thank you for that, because I'm not the greatest teacher. So I do apologize. I should be explaining these so that these questions don't arise. So I do apologize if I haven't done a great job of explaining them.
You explained that very well.
You did, didn't you?
Do you
So
have
before we
anything-
go into the bigger ones, was there another?
Oh, yes.
Okay, we have,
They're probably along the same line.
okay.
Okay. 19,
Related to this though. Related to this, what about 10.2, which are two other criterias for going into closed session, or at least having closed? The freedom of information as well as ombudsman related.
So that is a very good point. So we could add section 10.1 or 10.2. Thank you.
okay, so 19.15D, it's the bottom of the same page as that 10.5 was on. Change 20.3 to 18.21 and 18.22. And I just said it looks like 19.5E. Maybe the very same explanation, because I'm working now with the revised procedural bylaw, or proposed bylaw, I guess. So 19.15D. Here we go. Doesn't have 20.3. It has 8.
So we're looking at 19.15, which is resolutions.
The reason it's here is there's a duplicate. The next page is a duplicate. That was the only reason. No, it wasn't, but it's okay. This, when you read these, the two are very identical, same one as the other. I don't know how important this is. That's why I'm bringing it up. You don't want me doing my homework. That's the problem. Well, I've got 4 or 5 of these things I like to get out. And obviously, so 19.15D and 19.15E. Are the same.
Does everybody have their microphones on?
I am so sorry. No, I did not have my microphone on.
I thought it was pretty silent there.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Okay,
Okay, so 22.12.
so that actually will now need to be put back into the bylaw because you've made the administration committee just mayors.
I saw that. Plus the warden, if the warden is not a mayor.
Yes. So in the previous bylaw, under the committee structure, the warden cannot hold the position of chair. So for example, under PDAC, Under the committee section of the bylaw, it doesn't permit the warden to be the chair of a committee under the committee section of the bylaw, except if the committee is made up of the 4 mayors, because then you're there as the mayors. So that needs to be put back into the bylaw now that the administration committee is just the 4 mayors.
Okay, so if the warden is a mayor, then in the administration committee, that individual can function as a mayor and the warden. But if the warden is not a mayor, then that administration committee becomes 4 mayors plus the warden. That makes sense.
But we will put that section 22.1 in the committee section of the bylaw back into the bylaw now that the administration committee has been moved back to the 4 mayors.
Okay.
You have any more, Jerry?
Yeah, 1 or 2 more. I'm just about there. Okay, that was one of them scheduled before. 610, we're proposing to remove the deputy warden as the chair of the committee of the whole. And it's going to be the warden that's going to host the meeting all the way through. We discussed that and agreed to that, right?
That's correct. And that's actually part of the briefing that I have.
Okay. All right, and 9.15 electronic devices, that's being talked about later on, right? I'm good.
Okay. Judy, do you have some?
Yeah, I do.
Now, before you got here, Judy, Jeanette was saying that her briefing may cover a lot of these. Maybe we should go to the briefing first and see if our questions are answered at that point.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do that.
It might be the more efficient use of time.
Yes. Okay, so Jeanette, you take it away.
Thank you, Chair Smith. So just to take the committee through the briefing really focuses on some of the major changes that you've made. The typographical errors and the minor grammatical ones I did not cover in this briefing. And the briefing is taking you through these. These are the exact same ones that are in the resolution in the report. So they're in numerical order, not in the order that they were discussed necessarily at the committee or what's in this chart. So the first major change that you're making is under section 2.3 under definitions. So you asked us to come back and include in the bylaw a definition for motion to reconsider or reconsideration, and as well as a motion to suspend. So these are the motions. This is the definition we're proposing. A motion to reconsider means a motion by which council can revisit the vote on a previous motion. Does that work for everybody? And then the other one was motion to suspend. So basically what that means is that the motion to suspend is a motion that temporarily bypasses the rules of the procedural bylaw.
On the motion to reconsider, is there a time frame? Like, can we reconsider a motion that was done a year ago?
So the motion to reconsider, there is a time frame. There's a number of logistics around that motion, but that is actually covered in the body of the bylaw under motion for reconsider. So it does tell you that it's within a year. It requires a 2/3 vote. It requires that the person bringing forward the motion for reconsideration had voted in the positive on the original motion. Anybody that was against the original motion wouldn't be able to bring forward a motion for reconsideration. These rules are pulled directly out of Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay,
And I believe Councillor Greenwood Spears has a question.
go ahead, Judy.
Thank you. Just since we're at the definition piece and that if that's the only change in definition, I had a question.
Judy,
on-
speak right into the mic, please.
Okay. Usually I'm very loud. Motion to postpone in the definition piece that we're introducing a new term to it when it really should be deferred. And we reference it as defer in 18.7 and 18.27. So I think we should probably stick to the word defer rather than postpone. And that just my thought.
So we used to use the motion to defer. It seems like a logical word, but under Robert's Rules of Order, they don't promote using the word defer. It really should be postpone.
Then we need to get it corrected
So-
in the 18
so under-
and 18.27.
Okay, I will make that change.
Okay, so we're good with these definitions.
So the next major change was made under section 6.10, which is the role of the deputy warden. So we are going to remove clause A of that, which is to act as chair of the committee of the whole. So basically, this will leave the warden in the chair during a council meeting. Is everybody okay with that? And so as well, we didn't think to note this in our previous meeting, but the committee of the whole also meets for budget meetings. So do you want the warden to chair the budget meetings as well as chair of committee of the whole, or did you want the deputy warden to do it? I'm just throwing that out there, that there are times when we just have committee of the whole that's not necessarily part of council. But again,
I
it's a
think it
budget
should
meeting.
be, I think it should be the warden that's
The
the head
warden.
of, that's my thoughts. How about everyone else?
I agree with that.
I agree as well.
I agree too.
Okay,
Just.
that's,
if we're
that's
going-
what we pay the big bucks for.
Exactly, because the deputy doesn't get that much.
That's right.
If we're going in exact order though, on that, I just am curious on 4.9 and 4.10. The paragraphs look identical with the exception of section 267 and 268 is the only difference in the wording of it, and I just don't know why we have that there. Me, I had to read it 2-3 times and I thought, okay, there's one different section in that, and I think we could probably just roll it into one paragraph.
Sorry, this was just based on when the committee went through the bylaw.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So which ones are you looking at? Councillor Kim?
4.9 and 4.10. And the paragraphs are identical with the exception of the two sections, section 267 and then the other section 268. And honest to God, I don't know which one.
So just
Yeah,
to
they are.
quickly, there are two sections in the municipal act that allow for an alternate member of council. So the municipality can assign an alternate member of council
Mhm.
as well, and that alternate member comes under specific terms, and I haven't really paid attention close enough to this, but so 267 and 268 are two separate sections under the municipal act. So if, for example, Councillor Fowler, for some unknown reason, is not able to attend meetings for the next year, the municipality can appoint somebody to take his place. That's done on a specific case by case basis, and I have to double check the act to know which one is which. The other one is that the municipality can appoint a alternate member for the whole term of council. And that alternate member, if, for example, Councillor Lichty is not able to come, then that alternate steps in his place. So there's two separate sections that identify in the municipal act where an alternate can be used.
Okay. I just thought that they could roll into one paragraph, but that's fine.
Okay, let's keep going. We've done section 6.10.
So the next one was a minor amendment, but previously we had appointments to external boards and committees. Now this would be, for example, the library board or the public health board, the food policy council. These were typically done in the past at the inaugural meeting of council. But because we can sometimes get a lot of new people on on council now, the committee opted to remove that from the inaugural meeting. So we'll bring that forward at the next regular meeting, where the inaugural meeting really is a formality.
Okay, just one note that, the Southeast Health Unit Board, all of the terms end at the election time. They will have a meeting before we get to the next one if we don't do it at the inaugural meeting. So we may be delayed on having somebody appointed to that, and it's sort of crucial.
Yeah, I'm not actually too sure where other municipalities do this. We can leave it at the inaugural if that's the option, but
Maybe we need to ask the health unit to take a look at changing their date.
I don't think that it work out well and that it's the last of the 3 years that we have for the funding from the provincial government. So sort of pedal to the metal, and I've already withdrawn from the 2 committees and that of governance and finance there because there's no funding for it. So I just thought I'd point that out. And I don't know if other municipalities, if they had the same approach, you would not have a functioning Southeast Health Unit Board because the majority are from municipalities.
Councillor Lichty has his hand up.
Go ahead, Jerry.
So is this just a one-off, like for this year only, 2026? It wouldn't happen again in previous years or subsequent years? So we get to, I think we should, like the first meeting is inaugural, everybody's trying to wrap their heads around it, it's all new, pomp and circumstance, it's really formal. Last thing you want to think about is, should I be on a committee, should I not be? You want to give everybody a chance. But if it becomes that important, we could move one particular item forward into that meeting, and we won't know until we get there. You know, like you are the representative, you decide to run and you're successful, there's a significant chance that you would continue on in that position. But if you were not successful, or somebody else who wanted that position, that might set up a discussion about who's the best suited for it, so that we could bring that forward at that time. But to bring all of them together at once, you're sitting there and it's just kind of rolling the dice because you don't know.
The only problem I see with that, Jerry, is that staff would need to send out to all the members ahead of the inaugural what this committee is all about, so they can decide whether or not they'd even want to be on it. It's quite a commitment. So somehow, if they're going to have to choose at the inaugural, they need to be educated about what it's all about. There's no sense putting somebody on there that has no idea what it's about and decides after the first year they don't want to do it anymore.
Got it.
I agree with that.
I think we just go with it and see what happens.
You could always initiate the suspend rule type that we were just talking about.
Can't hear you, Judy.
Didn't we just talk about an option of suspension of our rules and that if needed, if that occurred? As it is, our inaugural meeting is actually going to impact Southeast Health Unit board meeting and that, because we're doing it on the 4th Wednesday of the month, I believe, in November, and that's the same time as the Southeast Health Unit. That, but anyways, it's just, I know that it is a crucial year in that, or else there's going to be challenges with the province.
My thought is along the lines of what everyone's saying. I think the intent of this is so that people don't come to that first meeting and get overwhelmed and elected to something they're not even sure what they're getting into. But to your point, Councillor Greenwood Spears, and I think to yours as well, Councillor Lichty, if there was a need to appoint someone sooner, I think we could still get it on the agenda if needed with the support of council.
The other thing that I heard from Councillor Greenwood Spears was that other municipalities may have the same issue. So, you know, they may have to, the Southeast Health Unit may have to make a change.
Exactly.
So when we look at other municipalities as well, just keep in mind that single and lower tiers typically meet twice a month. Their inaugural is typically not one of those meetings. So we actually miss the November meeting because it's completely the inaugural. We don't meet every 2 weeks. We meet monthly. So it's December before it gets put on the agenda. So upper tier is a little bit different than the single and lower tier. But I could note that at the previous inaugural, this was not done at the previous inaugural either. It was done at the first meeting in December.
And you know, it is an important committee, but somebody brand new isn't going to be very useful anyway. So I think we just go ahead and do it the first regular meeting. So they're going to miss the first meeting or that inaugural meeting of the health unit.
And if there is a need to get someone there, I think through the procedure bylaw, it can be overridden and put on the, like, if you're trying to make that meeting date, there's the option for council.
Send the warden.
Because the warden's chosen and the deputy warden are chosen before
Yeah.
we have the inaugural meeting.
Not on the board.
Wow.
Okay.
Anyways, we'll deal with it. We can deal with it as it goes and that, and see how it plays out. What the heck, eh? Roll the dice.
Somebody will deal with it. Won't be me. All right, let's go on to section whatever.
So the next section is, I've grouped these sort of somewhat together, is the criteria around electronic meetings. So the first change that we're making is under section 9.15. So we're going to add, the committee opted to add one of the criteria for allowing somebody to attend electronically would be a family health issue. I have that correct? And the other one was to add a criteria that if they're carrying out, if they're away at an event on behalf of their respective township, which was not previously in the bylaw. And Councillor Greenwood Spears?
I'd ask that we consider putting in a ferry interruption as also a potential why you might have to do a Zoom. Because if you can't make it or you miss the boat for ambulance reasons, etc., you should be able to Zoom in and it shouldn't be counted against you in my view.
Sorry. Chair, can we look at that and say, okay, it's a little bit too much? So can we look at this and say, exceptional circumstances? So that would be like weather related.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't get here, or it's blowing and snowing and we just can't get here. It's that simple.
Jeanette, is there anything in there now about weather?
It does say due to a significant weather event, or we could put infrastructure disruption.
That would work.
Yes. And maybe in brackets, we could put ferry, so it's specific to the islands. Judy, does that work for you?
Yeah, that works for me. The only time that I ever tried to use it, I was at a ferry conference out in Vancouver and I got denied access to the meeting. I thought it was fairly relevant, but since I was there on my own expense, and that it wasn't counted for me. So sometimes there needs to be a judgment call too.
Right.
Councillor Smith, can I just ask a very quick question? Are you able to hear Councillor Greenwood Spears and Councillor Lichty a little better now? We've turned the microphones up here in the.
I can, as people speak, Judy speaks down because she's reading something, and you need to pull the mic down when your head goes down.
And I believe Councillor Lichty has a question.
No,
Okay, sorry, you're right.
sorry, I just had my hand there.
Okay, so
So-
the next one was under section 9.16. We were going to add the additional restriction at a meeting closed to the public. So this basically makes it so that if we're in closed session, you cannot attend virtually.
Right.
have to be in person. And then the last one, oh, sorry, Councillor Lichty has his hand up.
I'm not trying to be a pain, but I'm just thinking the way we did it.
Into the mic, Jerry.
Sorry. In North Frontenac, we had the very same thing. We just added it for a number of reasons. But we also, what do you do when you have a consultant? Say you want legal advice or you want engineering advice or whatever. So the consultant is here by Zoom. Do you allow that to occur? We highlight that distinction. Do we have to do that here? That's all.
Good point.
So again, we're in closed session here. I'm trying to think, have we ever had a circumstance where we would have a consultant come into a closed session?
I think we have.
Have we?
The only example I can think of is if we have legal advice or have the lawyers and they
Yes.
couldn't make it here in person and they needed to address counsel virtually. So
$600 an hour for traveling and whatever else from Toronto versus $600 an hour for a 15-minute Zoom call.
So I would point out that the procedural bylaw only applies to members of council.
Right.
This does not apply to staff or the public so when it says meeting participating virtually or electronically, this is only applying to council. It's a little bit of a
Right.
work around the rule, but this only applies to council. It does not apply to staff or the public.
So
Good point.
just to get this straight, so if a counselor comes in on Zoom because of their situation, that means when it comes to close, they cannot participate.
That's right. Yeah.
Fran,
Like today, if you were to go into close today, I'm gone.
Fran, do you have that in Central?
Yes. Well, we try to. Every now and then we'll have somebody who wants to have somebody else on their phone listening to what's going on, not participating, but listening, which I don't agree with, but it's happened.
Sorry, Councillor Greenwood Spears has a question.
Okay, and I don't think we've gotten to it yet, but it's regarding the electronic devices in closed session. And
That's coming. We haven't gotten into it yet.
Okay, and we haven't gotten to 9.3, correct?
I think we're past 9.3. What is 9.3?
9.3 H is a blank. It
H?
has- Yep. The order of business for the inaugural meeting, and we got a blank in H, so just a typo type of thing.
That's probably my typo because I removed
Okay.
external board. So the only other one under electronic meetings that we've added is under section 9.17. So this is the section that limits you to only participating in 2 virtual meetings a year. So we're just simply adding that this restriction does not apply to joint council meetings because we do typically hold a joint council meeting once a year for EORN to come and do their presentation, and it's typically done electronically just because of the numbers. And then the other one was we're going to add that clause to ensure the county is meeting its legislative requirements under the AODA and its duty to accommodate this limit of restricting electronic participation to 2 times per year does not apply to members of the Frontenac Accessibility Advisory Committee. So it's just that committee that gets that exemption.
But Jeanette, what about a situation like mine where you break something and you can't walk to get to a meeting?
So there is a provision in here under the limit of 2. It does say with permission from the warden. So
Okay.
obviously, if we're in a situation where you physically can't move, then this would be bypassed by the warden. So this
Okay.
is really just to stop people from just coming in electronically because
It's easier.
it's easier.
Yeah.
And Councillor Greenwood Spears has a question.
What happens if we have someone elected that is wheelchair bound and needs to have some accommodation provided as well?
So are you speaking of somebody who's,
Elected into the council,
elected to council?
yeah. Disabled, And with reasonable accommodation that we're willing to grant for AODC committee, that should probably be raised as a point. They could be somebody that it's a tremendous effort in that, and I've seen it, both at the federal and the provincial level. So in the future, we may have somebody like that here on this council.
So the reason it was opted to go with the with the Accessibility Advisory Committee, because they're volunteers. They're not getting paid. They're volunteering their time and effort. When you're elected to council, it's a little bit of a different situation. But I can't speak to that. If there's an accommodation that needs to be done, then it's under the AODA. We do have a duty to accommodate. So if we came up against that situation, then it would be likely at that point that you would have to look at it.
And I would think if I were elected, being in a wheelchair, I would have everything in place that I would be at the meetings unless there was exceptional circumstances. And I know the people that I've seen in the province who have been elected are managed very well to get to probably more meetings than the able-bodied people.
And I believe Councillor Lichty has a question.
My only question is two enough? Should it be three? Or, I know there is the exception if the warden approves for exceptional circumstances, that's fine. And on the other one with the disability may have difficulty coming in, at that time, we could make an exception or we could make accommodations. So my only question really is two sufficient or should we be going to 3 meetings? It's 11 during the year plus.
So this was discussed at the previous meeting. The committee opted to stay at the 2. It's certainly up for discussion again if you want to look at more than 2.
Could the warden make an exception when we need to have a question like that come about? I think that's the warden should have that kind of power. Because the warden's in charge of making sure the meeting goes ahead and everybody can be accommodated.
And also, this can all be amended if there is a need.
Just keep in mind too, that if you're zooming in or you're participating electronically, you can't participate in a closed meeting of this council. And that can become very problematic because a lot of important things are discussed within a closed session. So it's really, to do your job as a counselor, you really should be making whatever efforts you can to be here physically. And most of us or all of us do.
Sorry, Councillor Greenwood Spears has a question.
Go ahead.
Just in regards to that, as it was pointed out, if we have legal advice, et cetera, and that they can come in a closed session, it is almost a double standard in that there's a level of distrust that a counselor would be not allowed to do a closed session as well.
But Judy, I think the reason for that is you don't know who's in the household, and there can be people sitting around in a living room that you can't see on camera, and that's why we do it that way.
I appreciate that. That's why I'm just saying it's a level of distrust in that, because we're all under oath of confidentiality. And I know when I've had secured meetings and that, I just make sure everybody's the heck out and the door is locked. But anyways, just a point.
I think
Okay.
that we're all responsible people, and I do agree with Judy to that point. But when we take on this job, we have to make sure we do it properly.
So, and I would just like to, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Smith.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so under section 9.17, it does say a member of council, where it limits you to 2, a member of council may request permission from the warden to participate electronically in additional meetings as a result of extenuating circumstances. So, I mean, that could even cover the ferry issue, really. If the ferry's not working and it's a quick email to myself, we're sitting right side by side in the meeting to say, the ferry's down and the permission is granted.
Right. Okay, let's move on.
So
Close.
the next one is under electronic devices, under section 10, which is the closed meeting. So we're going to add that no electronic devices will be allowed in closed session. All members will be required to leave these devices in a box. This restriction does not apply to accessibility aids. So of course, electronic devices, Councillor Fowler mentioned a hearing aid that he uses. So it would not include accessibility aids. It would just include your other electronic devices such as your cell phones.
What if we need our computers for the agenda?
Just thought of that because that would include your iPads too.
Yeah. I think we should say something like electronic devices have to be turned off. Do we really want to have our phones all put in a box?
So what is the intent? Like, is the intent phones? Like, do we just,
Not to have a recording device, I think is
Yeah.
probably the intent in that.
like,
that-
instead of electronic devices, is there a way to narrow that to what the intent of this committee is after?
But as Fred pointed out before, in that his hearing aid is hooked onto Bluetooth, right? So potentially it could be recorded in that, on his cell phone.
No, but there is, I do have a device that's used for these, my Bluetooth, and it's a listening device where I could leave it somewhere and I could pick up what's going on, any noise that goes through that. So something like that would have to be eliminated. And, I myself would never intentionally do that to a meeting. I need these to hear everything and, you know, and I'll only use it properly. That's all I can say.
So if I could maybe make 2 points to that. Number one, we don't use the microphones in closed session, so
Right.
your hearing wouldn't be of much use. We could add no electronic recording or communication, and then in brackets, cell phones devices be allowed in closed session. Does that work?
So I use my iPad a lot because I don't want to bring in a laptop. I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to computer systems and so on. So
Jerry, speak into that microphone.
sorry, I'm a little bit, I use the word Luddite when it comes to computer systems and so on. So I could theoretically, you're telling me, be working on a system here, or working on a software or a presentation or whatever that's on my iPad, that my device could be recording and sending that somewhere else or transmitting it. Is that what I'm hearing? Because right now, as far as I'm concerned, electronic devices of any nature should be banned and should be turned off, period. And it's interesting that all three, North, Central, and South, have all put in some kind of restriction on electronic devices in closed meetings. So anyway, that's just a comment. I mean, we're supposed to trust each other, and for the most part, we do. But sometimes there are people, you have an outlier you have to worry about.
I think I'd prefer just to have it say, no electronic devices will be allowed in closed session. Where we leave them is up to us, if they're in a briefcase or on the table or in a box.
Can we put activated electronic devices? Like, yeah, I can have my phone and it's fine. But if it's activated, it could be picking up or transmitting.
I don't know. What do you suggest, Jeanette?
Well, first, Councillor Greenwood Spears had a comment to make.
Sorry, Judy.
I think we're probably milking it too hard in that, because the recording, if it did occur, we've never had anybody leak it out to the press or anything of that nature. I find their mouth far more problematic than a recording device, because I have had people come up and wanting to talk about things that shouldn't be talked about, and you just shut them up. So I think we're sort of beating it to death in that. I think somebody's voice is gonna be far more damaging to us than worrying about anybody's phone.
So, and if I could just add to that as well, the issue that we've brought up in the past, that pocket dialing it's not intentional. It sometimes happens when the phone's sitting in your pocket and you slip the wrong way and all of a sudden you've pocket dialed somebody. You can't hear them on the other end going, hello, 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 but they hear every word that you're saying. So that was one of the issues. It's not a case of we just don't trust. It's these things can happen.
I was gonna
Okay.
say something similar. I don't see it as a case of trust issue. I see it as just putting in safeguards to ensure that any kind of slip up, it's protecting the municipality from.
Okay.
And then I think some of this, if I may, maybe it came from other townships within the County of Frontenac that were implementing similar changes. So I don't know what the language is in north or central or south, but maybe that's where some of this was coming from.
Could we say maybe no recording devices would be allowed? So if it's your phone, if it's your iPad, leave it away.
With the exception actually of the clerk, because the ombudsman has already ruled that there needs to be an opportunity for review of anything in closed session. And so that I have no problem with the clerk actually recording it, because it has been an investigation that's been done at different councils and it's been recommendation by the ombudsman that there is an accurate recording.
So we do not record the closed sessions. And we take the minutes but we do not record closed
And the
sessions.
minutes
And
are
that's the same in our municipality as well.
same with us.
Yeah, as I said, it's been recommendation from the ombudsman already.
Well, he can recommend all he wants. If it's a closed session, it's a closed session. There are minutes, but there are not recordings.
Yeah, we have to keep these things closed and do what we can, due diligence to make sure it happens.
And you have to be comfortable to speak your mind in the closed session. Okay, what are we going to do with this? Jeanette, any suggestions?
Do we want to just, do you want to just leave it as no electronic devices will be allowed in closed session? Or do you want that amended to recording devices? Or I think we're quite happy with no electronic devices and not getting overly
Specific.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Chair, I can live with that.
Okay,
I think if we can eliminate or add recording that are capable of being recorded or transmitting.
When you're back where we started.
Well, I agree though, because if not, you're going to eliminate your iPads and everything else that's electronic. And that's so transmitting and recording devices to me are the things that you're trying to restrict.
Okay, so we can add that no electronic recording or transmitting devices.
okay. But we're not going to be putting them in a box, right?
Right.
So we are looking to purchase a box. It's not a box, so to speak. It's a specific holder for cell phones. It can fit up to 12 cell phones. So it's just easy. And that way they're sitting right in view. They're not thrown in a box. It's a
Okay.
cell phone holder. It's a specific cell phone holder.
Okay,
But I think that they're left in a box. If we take that out, members will be required to leave their devices where?
You speak about a box. So there are boxes that you could put an electronic device in that will restrict any signal from that getting out of the box. And you're looking at something that might cost a couple of bucks, but they do exist.
do we really need to tell people where they need to leave them? They just can leave them wherever they want, but don't bring them into the closed meeting.
Or turn them off, yeah.
So what I'm hearing, my opinion from the group is to remove that box section. We could still put it in a box. It just doesn't
Sure.
descriptively say that.
The other thing you've got to take into consideration is when we're out of
Brett,
here-
speak into the mic.
Sorry, when we're in the closed meeting, most of us or probably all of us are in the closed meeting. So what about my phone sitting out here that it could be removed by somebody? Not that I would say it would happen, but it could happen.
And that was the point I was just going to make. So I would maybe suggest that we leave these that the members will be required to leave these devices.
In a safe space.
The idea of the box makes it a little more secure. That's one thing, and it secures our property.
I honestly don't think we need the terminology box. If Jeanette, you and your staff and Kevin decide that we should get a box, then, you know, we put that to council and say, we recommend you do this and put it here. Okay?
Yeah,
I'm just trying to think of a way of how we word this so that, you know, odds of it happening are probably nil, but the ombudsman can still come in and do an investigation that we didn't follow the procedural bylaw. So if the procedural bylaw says no electronic devices will be allowed in closed session, and all of a sudden we're just saying, okay, well, we're going to take them into the closed room. We're going to leave them in the corner here. We have now, you know, we have now not followed the procedural bylaw. So you want to make sure the wording is in here specific to no electronic devices will be allowed, maybe perhaps during closed session, and must be left under the control of the clerk or under the control of whatever. But we need to put something in here, because if we remove that piece about them being in the box, then we offend the procedural bylaw if we're called out on it.
I think I like your idea with the clerk being in charge, because she's the ultimate.
but the clerk is in the meeting often.
But the
She
assistant,
could appoint somebody like, one of the other members of the staff to keep an eye on our
Yeah.
equipment.
the assistant to the CAO doesn't come into the closed session.
Is it the box part that we're getting caught up on? Can all members be required to leave these devices in a safe location? Is that too broad, Jeanette, for the intent of the?
So I'm thinking, and again, this wording came from one of the townships who have since implemented into their bylaw, but the first, now that I think about it, maybe it should be members will not be permitted to have electronic devices in closed session. Somewhere around here, so that if they're taken into the room in a safe space, we're not offending the procedural bylaw.
Yeah. We spent way too much on this. We're just making.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
So we're going to put members will be required to leave these devices in a safe space
sure.
Sure.
or in a space determined by,
A safe place.
Ultimately, it might end up being a box anyway, so I don't.
Yes,
Did a
but it
full
doesn't have to be
circle, but-
specific, right? And we can set it on Alexa's desk.
okay, so does it work when we say no electronic devices will be allowed in closed session? All members will be required to leave these devices in a safe space determined by the clerk? Does that
Yep.
work?
Yep.
Good.
You're leaving in the,
Mine's in my car.
does not
realize
apply
that.
to accessibility aids. correct?
That's correct. So the next section is on pecuniary interest. So we're going to just add the following. So that first one really deals with because we go into closed session as the first item of business and not in the middle. There's been questions around how you declare pecuniary interest, because it has to be declared in open session. So we're just adding that one piece, that where the declaration is, where the declaration of interest is made on a matter that is not open to the public, the member shall, in a written statement to the clerk, declare the interest, and that shall be recorded in the minutes during open session or the next open public meeting. Sorry, this is
No.
section 15. Sorry, I'm just going through the ones that the committee has discussed right now. And then the next one there is a registry shall be kept by the clerk of every written statement made by members of the general nature of the declaration of interest. The registry shall be available for public inspection. So this is just a requirement on my part under the municipal act. So we're just popping it into the procedural bylaw.
Okay, any comments or question on that one?
Sorry, Councillor Lichty has a comment?
Okay,
Furniture first. I think this is fine. But you're in a closed session. The topic is general in nature. You declare a conflict of interest. You have to now bring back out into the open.
microphone, Jerry?
How that conflict of interest declaration is written becomes really a problem if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Let's say we're talking about a lawsuit and you're related to the applicant that's being sued or that's suing the county. So you declare a conflict. And you have to write, you know, I'm related to the applicant or I'm related to so-and-so. If the applicant is one word, but even the fact that somebody could interpret what you're saying. So it's very, very, very important that you write the conflict of interest carefully. That's all. Kind of worked through that, sorry. Started with me, no, okay, I got it. You'll make sure it's right. I got it. I have faith.
So just as a note to that, no, we wouldn't make sure that it's right because staff cannot guide you on pecuniary interests. You do have a integrity commissioner that can guide you on that, but as staff, we do not guide. We do not become part of it at all.
Or one of your fellow counselors will talk to you about it, but they probably shouldn't either.
So Councillor Greenwood Spears has a comment.
Go ahead, Judy.
I've already gone through that and I made my declaration at the time of the closed session. I had it in writing and then when we returned from closed session, it was just the mayor has declared a conflict of interest regarding legal issues and left it at that. And that was good enough. So
Yeah.
that's why we were in closed session. I just left the closed session but it needed to be reported back after the fact that's why I left the closed session. Done. Didn't have to
Okay.
clarify whether it was my cousin or myself.
Right.
Okay, so moving on to the next one, this was just under the specific rules of the bylaw under section 17.6. If you'll recall, there was a discrepancy there. The heading said speak once, but in the body, it said it allowed to speak twice. So the clarification from the committee, they moved the heading to speak twice. So that heading is just being tweaked a little bit to speak twice. That's
Good.
pretty minor. Sorry.
Yep.
May I add in one more piece since we're going numerical and that 13.4 is left blank, just as for whatever reason. Agenda items due to clerk and then 13.4 is just empty.
Got the microphones on?
Sorry,
It's
we're
silence
just,
here.
there's silence here. Sorry, which section is that?
13.4.
13.4, I don't have anything like an A, B, C.
No,
D.
you have agendas,
Item.
agenda items due to clerk, 13.4, and there's nothing underneath it. There's no subclauses or anything. So the item is blank.
It's probably to lay out what an agenda, what the headings are. And it just didn't get put in.
Okay, so mine's not.
Mine is too.
Jeanette, are you talking without the microphone?
Sorry, it could be the marked up version that some things are being hidden because under 13.4, it's stating the clerk in consultation with the warden shall have prepared and delivered. Oh, I think we removed this because it was a duplicate. Let me just, I thought we removed that section. That's why it's blank.
So we should get rid of 13.4 eliminated and renumber 13.5 to 4 and. down
Sorry,
the line.
yes. So once we remove all of those track changes, the blanks will disappear.
Okay, and the good news is then we have 13.5 and then another 13.5. So we've already got it fixed basically by changing to 13.4. The first 13.5.
So that will automatically renumber once we
Okay.
fix those things.
Okay, so specific rules, that's good.
Okay.
Let's go on.
So the next one was to add into the procedural bylaw minor administrative amendments. So this gave the clerk authority to make some minor amendments such as spelling, updating dates, altering, if the municipal act changing that section, correcting errors. At the last meeting, we did note that we were going to add, so it's in consultation with the chief administrative officer and the warden, because there was some hesitation around that type of authority. So this will be done in consultation with the warden. And again, these are very minor amendments like spelling,
Housekeeping.
all these grammatical errors that we had to fix through this.
We used to call them housekeeping items.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nobody
And
has a
then-
question on that?
Oh,
B?
sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So the next one is looking at our advisory committees and external boards. So Schedule B1 was the Accessibility Advisory Committee. We are removing the mandate that they have to meet a minimum of 6 times per year. Under Schedule B4, the Administration Committee, we're removing their composition and replacing it with the County of Frontenac Administration Committee shall be comprised of the 4 township mayors. And I've also added, and the warden, should the sitting warden not hold the position of township mayor. It just makes it a little clearer that I hate depending on the ex officio piece of it all the time. So it just makes it a little clearer if that's works for the committee. And Councillor Lichty has a comment?
So the way it's written, the mayor would then the warden would then have a vote at the committee level. If the warden was not one of the 4 mayors.
That's correct.
So it'd be 4 votes or 5 votes. Okay, got it.
And then the last one there was simply just to change KFLNA to Southeast Health Unit. And that was on Schedule C. So those are the amendments, and I believe that's it. So I'm just going to hit the,
Okay. Just the Southeast Health Unit, Southeast is all one word. Oh, not 2.
Okay, let's keep moving. It's 11:13. Any more questions on this? I'll get my agenda up here to see where we are. Jeanette, I think you're on again, are you not?
so there is a resolution there with the report, that we are now, I guess the first question would be, is everybody okay with this, or are there more amendments to come? And Councillor Greenwood Spears has a comment.
Go ahead, Judy.
Okay, it's in section 21.3 regarding taking the readings of the bylaws. Rushing through doing 1, 2, 3 readings I appreciate we only meet on a monthly basis, but it actually eliminates any opportunity for the public to have any opportunity to be consulted or provide feedback. And I think it should be the rare occasion that we do a 1, 2, 3, such as a confirmatory bylaw, than just bylaws in general. And I say that because, quite frankly, it can result in legal action, and already has, and that at other levels. So I just find it poor that we are rushing 1, 2, 3 readings. We are usurping and minimizing any impact of actually announcing what the bylaw is, given the opportunity for the public to have full view of what the proposals are, have discussion on it, and then get to the third reading of it. I really think we should slow down the process. And I'll tell you, if reelected at the township level, that's going to be one of the changes that I helped to bring in, and I already had it brought in to slow it down to 1, 2, and then 3, and we should actually be doing it 1 and 2 and 3, unless there is something of a need of an urgency.
Okay, anybody else?
So Counselor Fowler has his hand up.
So what you're saying is you want these done separately. Now, would that extend it beyond the same day? Would we have to do it at the next council meeting?
Yeah, it would slow down the process so that first one, you're announcing that there's going to be a bylaw that'll be coming down the pipe. Second one, that the bylaw and everything regarding it is open to the public, that they can review it and you can have discussions with your constituents ahead of time. And you can bring that discussion back then to the council meeting, because that will be the second reading of it. And then the third reading should be the final version of it. But doing it all 1, 2, 3 is not democratic in any way, shape, or form. And it is used, unfortunately, as an abusive process, and it occurred too frequently in our local township, and it's been changed.
Okay, anyone else?
So
Jerry.
Counselor Lichty.
Thank you. In our township, as here, only we do it 1, 2, 3 altogether. Councilors have the right to object and to put a resolution on the floor to do exactly what you're talking about, depending on the item. I mean, a lot of this stuff is housekeeping, it's road allowances, it's transfer a piece of property, it's whether they want to fund something, whether they want to send $1,000 to a school or $200 to a food bank or whatever. You know, it all has to go through that, and I would hate to delay some of this stuff. And then when you get to the actual budget, we do it in a special meeting, and then it's brought before council. That's over a period of time. But if there is a bylaw of which the majority of councilors want to slow down, they can do that. They have that right, and they've done it once or twice.
And Counselor Fowler has a question.
Yeah, and to Jerry's point, some of the things are time sensitive, and the quicker that we can deal with it in the business of council, the better it will be in the long run for the individuals that have the thing that has to come.
But
And oh, go ahead, Judy.
I was just going to say that the public is the one that's being completely cut out of it, because we may not have heard from the public. And certainly things come before this council and that affects more north or central or south. And I'm certainly not familiar with it at that point in time. But I do appreciate that I've been contacted by people from South Frontenac or North Frontenac that regarding something going on here. And my vote counts as much as anyone else's here. So I think slowing it down, unless it is truly time sensitive, is in the best interest for democracy in that. So that I don't know what the fire sale is for so much that everything tends to go through 1, 2, 3.
So I
Okay.
can maybe speak to that a little bit. When we look at, so first, second, and third reading, you're correct. First reading is to introduce the bylaw. Second reading is to open it up to debate, and third reading is to finally pass it. This stems from provincial legislation, or the way we govern here. It's based on British rule. In the provincial legislation, they don't do reports. They don't do the staff reports that we do where all the information is in it. So they introduce first reading and then it's sent to a committee. The committee debates, and then it's sent to, sorry, they do first reading, it's sent to committee. It does second reading at committee and it's debated, and then third reading, it's finally passed. So the provincial legislation works a little differently than here in the municipal sector. Most of council's decisions are done through the staff report, and the bylaw that's passed afterwards is a little bit of a formality just to cover our legal ground of having to pass everything through bylaw. And then most staff reports, the brunt of the work that we do is gone, it goes through a committee. So for example, our majority work with the KMP Trail or planning and ECDEB, it all goes through a committee first, where the rules of the procedural bylaw are relaxed quite a bit and the public has the ability to come and speak, come and ask questions and provide input. So that's just a little bit of background on the difference between a little bit of municipal versus provincial.
And I agree. We discuss these issues before the bylaw comes before us, often the meeting before or at that meeting. And I don't think we've had a lot of the public who have complained that we're rushing things, or a lot of the public who have actually participated in a lot of discussions on this stuff. Locally, maybe, yes. And on the islands, you have a very active group. I don't think we have that much at the county that are commenting on what we do. Judy?
Actually, that's one of the most important pieces in that. For example, our paramedic services and that, and the citizens have been very adamant that they want to have input into even discussion on our reports, and they appreciate that I raise as much as I can for them, but they're being shut out. And that, whereas if we had announced that we're going to have the paramedic annual report come in or recommendations, et cetera, and that, then they'd have enough time to get organized to make presentations that may be impactful for other counselors here and may actually end up avoiding bigger problems because it's the shutdown of the public by doing it this fast.
Okay, Jerry.
Okay, so we send the agenda out, all the information is there, the public has access to the agenda. Hang on, my floor. And when the agenda goes out, public can review it. And I assure you, if it's contentious enough, the public is on the phone. Our agenda went out at 1 o'clock yesterday, and by 3 o'clock, it was all over Facebook, what we were doing. And I was hearing about it by 5 or 6 o'clock last night. So, I mean, if they really want to get involved, they can get involved. If you want to have a presentation, then they have to schedule a presentation, which takes, depending how many are in order, we only allow so many at a time. And that's for a good reason. So you sit there and you want to listen to 2, you want to listen to 4. By the 4th one, you can be kind of phased out. But, you know, we're just delaying. On the other hand, everything is trying to push everything up on this side to get things out. Don't have this bureaucratic structure. Just get it through. That's what the public wants. So that's my opinion. And I think it's just fine the way it is. I think we do all right. And I won't say any more today.
And I'll just make the point that when we publish our agenda, it's already beyond the time frame for them to make an application to make a presentation to it. So it is shutting down the public. And it's not an ambush, or it shouldn't be an ambush, on significant reports that come out on an annual or quarterly basis. And there should be an opportunity for the public to give their comments, not just in a rushed method and only with the voice of their counselors, and that there are serious issues and it's going to become very expensive. I can see that coming.
Okay, I'm going to call the vote on this one. So,
Ask it's recorded.
okay, that's fine too. There's a motion here. Do you want me to read this motion, Jeanette?
I think the motion's in front of everyone. I don't think it needs to be read, but just for number one, for all the housekeeping amendments, where it says updated proposed amendments chart, I've just put as amended at the meeting,
Okay,
if that works for everyone. And then I've noted the amendments so that I can send out the final bylaw, and it will go up on the Engage Frontenac site.
okay, so moved by Fred and seconded by Jerry, that the
Oh,
following
sorry,
draft
Council-
amendments. Oh,
Sorry, Councillor Lichty has a question.
What's the resolution? Like, whereabouts is it in here?
it's just accepting what's been before us.
So the
With-
resolution is on the top page of the agenda. So it's under report 2006-011. And it has that the amendments incorporated into bylaw, and it
Got
lists
it.
them all. Okay.
That's whole
perfect.
things. Okay,
Okay,
I apologize.
So- all of that. And the bottom line is, and further that the draft bylaw be placed on the Governance Review Committee consultation 2025 project on Engage Frontenac for 21 days for public comment. So it will be available. All those in favor? I can't see hands, but
Sorry, we, Councillor
Recorded
Greenwood
vote.
requested a recorded vote.
yes,
So Councillor Greenwood Spears, how do you vote?
use your microphone.
Nay.
Councillor Fowler, sorry, trying to do it alphabetical in my head. Councillor Fowler, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Lichty, how do you vote?
Yes,
And Councillor Smith, how do you vote?
Yes,
So that is carried.
okay. And our last thing is staff briefing 6.3. Governance work plan. Are the microphones off again?
Sorry, I'm just pulling the presentation up, Councillor
Oh,
Smith.
okay. Sorry, every time it's quiet, I think that I think people are talking and I'm not hearing.
So I'm just going to do this one up here because sometimes it's easier to stand when you're talking. And Kevin, I believe I'm going to have to get you to flip the slides, aren't I? So did you want, okay. So I just wanted to very quickly walk the Governance Review Committee through a couple of things on our work plan this year. And so as you can see there from the first slide, 2026 is a municipal elections year. So we are going to be working on that. We're also going to be working on the council orientation, the continuation of the outstanding policies here at the committee, and then council strategic plan. So can you just pop it to the next? So the 2026 municipal election, so there's a couple of things happening here. We have some joint work going on with the townships. So right now the county's working with the Frontenac clerks to take the lead, not so much on advertising, but the background work, because we don't have to run an election here. We do the legwork on these, so you want to run for council. So that's coming up, I believe it's April 17th. In the past, we have used Fred Dean for this, but the clerks felt that he's been out of the game a little bit too much. So we have now invited Kelly Pender and Tony Fleming from Cunningham Swan to come and do that presentation. So Kelly will speak to from a perspective of what it means to be a counselor, and then Tony will present some of the legal aspects behind that. We're also going to be working on an information township packages, candidate packages. So this really is, we wanted to have a conversation with the committee. We want to learn from you about what works and what doesn't work. So I included that township candidate package in your agenda today. That's really what we provide the township so that anybody running for the mayor of a township or thinking they want to be the second member counselor, they understand and know what happens here at the county. So if any of you had an opportunity to look at that, please let us know if there's some things missing in it, that from a new perspective as a new counselor, what did you see when you got here that really wasn't identified in that package for the candidate? Then we're
Can
going
I
to be-
just, can I just
Yes,
go back
sure.
to the joint meeting with, do you want to be a counselor? Did you
Yep.
say April that's going to be held?
I believe it's April 17th. I have it marked in my book. I don't have my book with me. I believe it's the 17th.
So it's
but I'll have to double
before
check.
nomination day.
Oh, yes, for sure. It's before nomination day.
Okay. So we need to really get that information out to the public to get people into the sessions.
Yes, and the townships themselves will be more promoting this in the packages or on their websites. We didn't want the county promoting it because a lot of potential candidates don't understand what the county is.
Right.
So we don't want it looking like it's coming from the county. It's going to look like it's coming from each of your respective townships.
Okay.
I believe, if I can be corrected here, the Township of Frontenac Islands is not participating in this. It was felt that members who are thinking of running for council there would not attend this. So it is being held in Charlotte Lake, which is the midway point between South, Central, and the North. I believe Councillor Greenwood Spears has a question.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Judy.
I don't think there is any ask of our township and that. If it was, it must have been at the CAO level and that, because quite frankly, it would be beneficial for all. That being said, Healthy Democracies has been a lead by the AMO and that, and they've been doing several sessions and that, both in person and online, and that are very effective in that. But no, I don't think that I'm not aware of us being excluded or being asked by the county and that to be excluded from this. So where that decision came from, I'd like to know.
So it was just an observation through the clerk, simply because at the last two, there was no participation from anybody from the islands, just because of the I can't understand why. It could be because of the travel. It is a joint shared cost, so it would be unfair to one, but you can certainly speak to them. But at this point, it's not.
We'd be happy to even host it over on the islands. You could all ride on our ferry on over.
So the other thing there is preparing for lame duck, potential lame duck, which I'll speak about a little later, and then our inaugural council meeting. So we are still, we're starting to work on that as well. Kevin, can you just pop it to the next slide, please? So I just wanted to talk a little bit about lame duck for those of you who don't know what that potentially is. So there are two instances when you can become lame duck, and that's this term of council. So after nominations day, but before voting day. So the magic number for the county is 6. So if 6 members of this council put their nomination papers in to run, you will not be in lame duck for the first instance. But after voting day, there is the additional potential for lame duck. So if, let's say, 6 or 7 of you put your names in, but only 3 of you were reelected, then that puts you in lame duck from voting day until your inaugural council meeting. So those are some of the restrictions up there, that you cannot remove or appoint any officer of the municipality. So Kevin and I are safe for a little bit. The hiring, dismissal of employees of the municipality, the disposition of any real property that has a value of over $50,000, or making any expenditures that are over $50,000 that were not included in the budget. So as you can see there are some exceptions to those. So C and D do not apply if the liability was in the budget this year. There's nothing to stop you from acting if we're in the situation of emergency. So if you are in lame duck and the roof collapses at Fairmount Home and it's $100,000 fix, you're still able to work on that. And then the last one there, as you can't quite see, but it's delegated authority. So for example, anyone who has delegated authority still retains that delegated authority. So that would eliminate for the county Clause B, which is the hiring or dismissal of employees of the municipality. So that is delegated through our HR policies to the HR department and to the CAO.
Just to note, we don't have that slide in our package.
No, I
I'd
put
like to
this
have-
on because I wasn't sure. I added that in there because I wasn't sure if council was aware of how they can become lame duck when it happens or what the restrictions were. Next slide, please. So again, we're really here to look at having a conversation with the committee and to learn from you in terms of the orientation session. You all went through the one that we had last time. So there's a couple of orientation sessions that we do here at the county. The first one is the joint orientation session. So we cover the things such as joint and severable liability related to roads. And we have somebody from our insurance company come and speak to that. We have a municipal financial overview, which KPMG would typically come and speak to council about. Then the legal issues in the integrity commissioner session, the employment and labor law and the planning act. We have Cunningham Swan representatives come and speak to that. So typically it's Tony Fleming or Dave Mundy or Greg Dobney. And then regional services provided by the County of Frontenac. So typically it's the CAO that would provide that to the joint council session. And then there's some mandatory training that councillors are required to have. So the AODA, which is myself, what I would provide the joint council. We have harassment and discrimination, which is provided by the HR department. And then the Ministry of Labor, which is provided by our occupational health. So again, do these cover what council, does this cover everything of what you were expecting in council? And then next slide, please, Kevin. And then the next slide is, of course, the specific orientation related to county council. So in the past, we've done what we don't call it this, but it's like a speed dating session where you're able to have a one-on-one conversation with each of our respective departments to learn what we do, what your role is as a counselor, where we need support from you, information that you'd like to get from us. Understanding the budget. So again, we're not looking at the 2027 budget, but the budget process, the way the budget process runs, does that help you as a counselor to understand the budget and the decisions that you need to make as a counselor? And then we also organize presentation from the external boards and agencies. So the City of Kingston comes to speak to council about the services that they provide, such as social services, housing. They also provide Provincial Offences Act. The library board comes to speak, the health unit comes to speak, as well as the University Hospitals Kingston Foundation, because there is a donation that goes to them as well. Next slide, please, Kevin. And then just from the continuation of policies here, things that are still missing from this committee are the MPIPA policies. We have had some training through AMCTO on the privacy breach impact assessment, which we have started working on. Brianna McKeithron, our deputy clerk, does come back in April, so she will be working very closely on those policies as well. And then lastly, the procurement policy, which is still missing from the committee as well. And then the last one as well is the strategic planning. So we're going to work very closely to ensure that this council gets a final report on this term of council strategic plan, what those goals were, have we met our goals, and what you're looking at in the future. And then as well, we need to also start beginning the process of taking the next term of council through a strategic plan. We're having discussions right now of what that will look like, but typically if we do hire a consultant, it would need to come at this term of council just to ensure that we have somebody available and ready to go. Because if we leave things all until 2027, then most key people are already taken up with work. So I think that was it with me. But again, we're really here to learn from the committee. Three of the four of you were new this term of council. So Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Thank you. One of the things that would help, in my view, is a index sheet of the county with the department and the people. And that with their extension, their email address, things of that nature, so that when you're trying to you contact the CAO, and you also make sure that the reference is to the person as well. And that's so that the public needs to know who the people at the county are as well. And that it just would help to sort things out, because it is one step out and yet it is an important step. On the budget piece, that having it broken down by percentage and things of that nature, it would be very helpful, as well as shares and that just straightforward stuff. But I know for economic development, when I was put on that, it was like the Easter egg hunt, trying to find all the relevant documentation, especially around the Kick and Push Trail and that for the foundation of it and things of that nature. So getting that sort of information, I worked closely with Kelly to get a hold of all the reports that I needed to get my head around, because it's the largest outlay of cash for here, and yet the history of it seems to have been buried after 12 years. So it was important, and those are my observations as a new person. I did a lot of Easter egg hunt to find out what I needed to know, even asking questions why we have no responsibility for roads at the county level, and reading through the prior decisions and prior reports and things of that nature. So the funding that we administer, whether it flows through the gas tax and the new terminology, all that sort of stuff, having it basically laid out in a candidate's information book, and that is helpful, because then they understand if they are, whether they're elected as the mayor or they land in as the second chair, and that they have a much better understanding of why this is a different level of government.
Okay. You're not going to take us through the other one, Jeanette? Just it's there for us to go over and comment?
So the other piece that was attached to this was the document of what the county does. So County of Frontenac Council. It was attached to the agenda. This is what we provided to the townships last term of council during the election year to include in the candidate packages. I included it for the committee to maybe just look at and see, are there things missing in this? So for example, we talk about what is the county, that we're in upper tier. It talks about the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus in there, the duties of the warden and deputy warden. And then it talks about the services, it lays out the services that we provide. So there's Fairmount Home, land ambulance, transportation, that covers marine services. It also covers, or it should cover, the stipend or grant that we give to the two transportation companies in the county. It looks at social and family services, on how the city of Kingston provides that on our behalf. It looks at planning services, economic development. It looks at corporate services and what happens in there, the different departments there. It also notes how the county is a Lean Six Sigma county and how we use that methodology to streamline processes. It looks at council representation. So it talks about here the RULAC committee, which we don't use anymore, but it does still remain in our procedural bylaw, so that it can be called upon if needed. So these are the external boards, and there's the library board, the KFL&A Public Health, which again, I will make sure I change that to Southeast Lynn. There's the other ones as well, the Algonquin line claim. I think that could probably be removed because we've opted to, I think that's finished with, is it now, Kevin?
No,
Kevin, are you able to?
no, it'll be a while.
Okay, so we'll leave that in there then.
And if I may, Jeanette, this is a document that we've used in the past, right? We're just looking to update it. One thing I noted was it speaks to council liaisons, which I don't think we have anymore. So we'll continue to update this, but it speaks to all the services and things that the county provides. So we can fine tune that and update it to the latest, greatest.
Yeah, and again, we're looking to the committee to work, to help us to what is missing here, because we live this every day, so it seems like it makes sense to us. But as a candidate, are there things missing here that you've noticed at the county that really should be included in this? I think Councillor Licht, you had a question?
We put the
Yes.
screen down so I can see people. Go ahead, Jerry.
So if you're running for township mayor, please take a look at the county warden and deputy warden. That was 2 terms ago. I don't know how much information you need as a candidate if you're running for a township position. It's important to know what you could be looking at, but your first responsibility at township level is to your township ratepayers. The upper level is sort of like, it's there, you'll deal with it when you get there. But when you get here, it's so important to realize some of the things you've highlighted. Here's the financial type of actual breakdown. What are the responsibilities are, like knowing how the province pays for or contributes to our land ambulance, our paramedic. How much do they pay? How much don't they pay? The responsibilities for the ferries. That's one of the first things we ran into, and we're given a crash course, and then we're asked to make decisions. So a little bit more background there would help. I don't know if that was going to help for the majority of us, maybe certainly for Frontenac Islands, maybe for South, but for Central and North, I don't know. But you got 2, right? Well, you got how?
You only have one.
I know, well, we didn't know that going in. Okay, so anyway, it's, especially the Fairmont Home and for the paramedic services, they're big items. Now we're adding the KNP Trail and how the townships and the county work together. Because you won't get that at the county level. Red, do
Judy.
you have- Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Judy had her hand up.
No, I was just pointing out that there's only one ferry that the county has to worry about, and I have the rest of the ferries and dealing with whether we run the 2 or we deal with MTO. And that,
Right.
but, and then the international ferry. And when we think about it, there's very little advantage all the way along that the Frontenac Islands has had from the county level, and especially when so much money is put into the KNP Trail. And yet when it comes around to the wharf that we purchased, and that to secure what potentially could be an extension of our international ferry, and that in reality, and that should be a topic of discussion at the county level for financial support. But it just, we tend to have very limited impact here at the county, and yet the county impacts the islands a great deal, and primarily through our paramedic services. So that's where there's going to be an ongoing disconnect along that line. Hopefully it'll be repaired in the future in that, but I can honestly say that it's been what Mr. Carney would call a rupture.
Okay. Fred, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I found it really helpful that I was a part-time person from North Frontenac at the previous council to come here and participate. Although limited, but I did participate, and it gave me an insight of how this operated. And I was glad to come back, and it was really helpful for me when I did come back. And a lot of these things I was aware of, and it might be a good idea to be able to take different council members and have them come and sit in, you know, even though they're not appointed to the county level, but just to come and visit and see what we do here and give them the insight that would help. That's just a suggestion I have.
The good thing now, Fred, is that they can watch us on YouTube and at least have some idea about what we deal with. But I think one of the problems with our municipalities is when people are first elected, you sort of want to get to know them and they need to get to know about the county before they can even decide whether or not they want to run for this job. So it does take a bit of time, but there isn't a lot of time. And when is our actual end date of this group? Is it September or October? Kevin?
November 14th is the end of this term of council.
November 14th. Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, we need to pick our next meeting date. Jeanette?
Sorry, just before I go pop down to my chair. I think we're safe to leave it at the call of the chair and staff. To the next thing coming up will be the MFIPA policies, and I'm just not sure how quickly we will get to them. So would that work for the committee? I think, oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. So the procedural bylaw goes up for 21 days. So that will take you to March. So if we have a meeting in March, just to approve the procedural bylaw so that it goes to council. So you would need to have a meeting in March after the open public consultation on Engaged Frontenac for the procedural bylaw.
And County Council is the 18th.
Yes, and this committee typically meets the first Tuesday of the month. So
So
that
it'd be
would
the 9th.
March
3rd.
3rd.
No, March the 2nd. Or the first Tuesday, the 3rd. Okay, so let's call it for the 3rd. And it probably should be a short meeting. Okay, is there anything else that we need to talk about today? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Moved by Jerry, seconded by Fred, that the meeting be adjourned at 10:51. All those in favor?
11:51.
Oh, sorry, 11:51. All those in favor, carried. Okay. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Fran.
Bye-bye.